I will never be the same. I've touched your grace. My life has changed. I will never be the same. I've touched your grace. My life has changed. I will never be the same. I've touched your grace. My life has changed. We will never be the same. When you touch His grace, your life will change.
You can never be the same. Never.
We will never be the same.
The grace of God it can't be found in the realm that we live in. No one else possesses the grace of God but God Himself. We cannot find this kind of love, this kind of forgiveness, this kind of acceptance outside of God, outside of Christ, outside of the work of salvation. You will never be able to find what grace opens us up to. It's an encounter. It's an experience. It is like finding your truest connection in nature. Grace is what we were created for. It's how we rightly relate to God. It's how God sees us. It's how He entreats us. It's how we receive from Him. We can't have a life without the grace of God. Just because grace is not magnified, it does not diminish how very effective it is in our lives. Religion is okay. In my opinion, it does way more harm than it can do good. But that's why Jesus did not come to offer us a religion. He came to offer us His grace. And because of His grace, we can relate to Him and have a relationship with Him. His grace says, I love you in spite of you. I love you in spite of your wrongs. I love you in spite of your shortcomings. I choose you. Grace says, I choose you. Grace says, I forgive you. Grace says, you're in my family. You're in the beloved. You're not an outsider. Grace causes the living God to chase you down, to pursue you, even as you run in the opposite direction of where He's located. Grace is encapsulating. It's everywhere at all times, which is why you cannot escape the great love of God. You cannot hide from His goodness, from His watchful eyes, but they're not eyes of judgment. They're eyes of compassion, and they're eyes of love. The grace of God is an invitation into hope, into joy unspeakable, into peace that surpasses understanding. It's a window. And when you go through that window, you enter a realm that is nothing like you've ever experienced. We all have people who care about us very deeply. Mothers care for their children in very deep ways. Fathers. But the love of God is something else altogether. We don't have to work for this love. We don't have to try to get God to notice, to accept us. Grace says, I noticed you first. Grace says, I accept you. And while you're trying to explain why this is, you're trying to really put it out there, what you got going on, Grace is like, I've known you all along. yet I chose you, yet I died for you. The Bible says that while we were the enemies of God, Christ died for us. He didn't come completely clueless of the type of people he was dying for. He was dying for his enemies. He was dying for people who hated him, truly hated him, warred against him in our minds, defied his every rule, his every law, even the nature that he gave us. We defy that because God places instinctively his nature in us. We're image bearers. We bear his image, and you would think that that alone would cause us to know him. But we'll walk right past him, and we'll treat him like a stranger. But he's connected himself to us. He's the one that tied himself to us. He tied himself to a violent people. He ties himself to people who kill their offsprings. He ties himself to people who cry and beg and plead for things only to despise those very things. Fickle. Good one day, nonchalant, non-caring the next. He took a chance on us. Love is risky. Nobody knows that better than God, because he's the only one who has the love. You think that the love that we have towards God is our love. It's God's spirit in the hearts of humankind teaching us how to love him. What a great salvation. What a great work that this God has done to keep us in the beloved. This is grace. This is grace. And when we truly understand how much God cares for us and all that he's done for us, it makes us want to turn to him. It makes us want to embrace him. It makes us want to lean on him. It makes us want to fall into him. Hide. Rest. This is what grace is. Receive the grace of God. Receive it into your hearts. Stop striving. Stop striving. Stop working. Rest in the goodness of your God and let him love you. In doing so, he'll teach you how to be a son.